Hey guys, I'm Chris and this is the Midlife Crisis Podcast. Welcome back everyone. Today's program is going to be a little bit of a different format than I usually do. Probably not going to spend too much time on the subject, but I just thought that it was something that needed to be addressed because it does impact finances and how we save and how we invest. And obviously, with layoffs and things coming, it also impacts how we, are going to have to budget our money and save our money and spend our money. So I'm gonna read off a few statistics here as of today, which is Monday. There's 978 cases. That's both the active cases and the ones that have been resolved. And there's been 7,100 deaths so far as of today. It's pretty interesting when you look at it because as of last Wednesday, that was the first time I really started paying attention. At that point, there was 110 deaths, and I think it was 4,900 or 110,000 cases and 4,900 deaths. And when you actually look at it on a linear graph, that rate is actually starting to go parabolic, kind of straight up, which is hopefully, is just it's going to peak and then it's going to come back down and then, we're going to move on and this is going to be something that we forget about and talk about and in the future as, remember that thing, right? So anyway, I wanted to make a couple points clear. A lot of the media and stuff, the titles say coronavirus, and that says that in my title as well, but I just put that out there because it's actually the most well-known name for what's going on right now. But the coronavirus is actually a virus that's pretty common. We usually have about 4 outbreaks of coronavirus every year, but the dangerous part comes in when that virus causes diseases, and that's what the COVID-19 is. The COVID-19 disease is what's actually killing people. The coronavirus is just what's carrying it and leading to it. Now the COVID-19 disease, how that works is it causes a lot of lung distress and breathing distress, and it can lead to things like lesions in your lungs, and then secondary things can actually kill you, which is like pneumonia and, people with COPD and breathing problems already, it stresses them to the point where it causes their death. It also causes death in people with compromised immune systems. So the elderly, people with compromised immune systems, those are the main people that are actually being, killed by this virus or this disease. One of the good facts to know is that it's really not impacting children 9 and under. So all of you parents out there, all of you people with grandkids, there's a little peace in knowing that, that your grandchildren, those kids under 9 years old are, in a group that's not seeing any effect from this. So, moving on a little bit, I want to talk about how it's affecting the world economy right now. Obviously with, travel bans in place, no overseas travel, no people from overseas coming into the country. They're starting to, make it so that I think there was an agreement or an announcement just a little while ago that they don't want people in groups of more than 10 people. So, that's showing the progression here. They're trying to prevent people from getting together. That's going to include things like work and factories and things like that. I don't know how they're going to manage that, if they're going to isolate certain departments, try and work through this in a strategic way. But if not, it's going to have a huge impact on our economy. People won't be able to gather for church on Sunday. They won't be able to gather for any kind of meetings. I'm not sure how the hospitals are going to handle this because that's going to be a hard place for them to manage because, of course, it's going to have the biggest concentration of people who are dealing with COVID-19. So it's going to have a huge impact on the economy. So right now we're not importing from China. That's going to be big because, a lot of stores, even here in the United States are actually ordering their products from over in China. And there's such a lead time on that is, if they can't order their products, if they can't be produced over there because the Chinese people are right now just getting over this, they're just slowly getting back to society. They just got over the worst, pandemic, imaginable over there. So they're going to be a little bit, slow to get back to full production and full swing over there. So all those products that they're manufacturing over there are going to have that delay coming back here as well. So, if a company has to order a month out, and they just had a month delay, they're going to be 2 months out before they get their first order in. In a month time for a place like a dollar store that orders a lot of low cost products from over there, that's going to mean a lot of empty shelves. Grocery stores, we're already seeing it in the grocery stores. You see like pictures of Walmart and Safeway and stuff, and the shelves are empty, especially commodities like canned goods and toilet paper and cleaning goods. A lot of those things, I mean, they're pretty much not able to find in a grocery store right now. So ultimately that's going to mean that the cost of goods are going to go up. The cost of fuel, that's the only thing that's really we're seeing a benefit from, and that's a direct result of oil prices going down. China is the biggest importer of oil. I'm pretty sure they're the biggest importer of oil in the world. So with them, with their production being down, with their cars being parked, manufacturing being down, they're not using as much oil. So obviously that's going to cause a glut of oil in places like the United States and OPEC and Russia. So, with OPEC and Russia not agreeing on output levels last week and starting basically a trade war, this is going to get even worse. I mean, they're going to be dropping prices. They're going to be upping production. They're going to be increasing the supply in the world, which is, of course, going to drive oil prices down, which in the end is going to affect a large part of the U.S. right now. There's a lot of people in the oil and gas industry or people that are directly affected by the oil and gas industry. So they're going to be layoffs. I'm actually in the oil and gas industry myself. I was just advised today that my wages are going to be cut by about 30%. It's going to be a short-term thing until we get through the slowdown, but I mean, how do we know how long that's going to be? So that was a big blow to take today, but we'll get through it and we'll come out the other side stronger. That's kind of how my family is, and that's what my goal is in this. So the other thing that I want to talk about is the stock markets. A lot of the stocks, some might look at this as a negative or a positive, depending on which side of it you're on. A lot of people are panicking because stocks go down, their retirements are in there. They're worried that they're going to lose all their money. Well, the truth is that, the stock market goes up and down. That's what it does. Traditionally, there's been anywhere from a 7 to 12% average, depending on who you talk to, but we'll say, for the sake of this video, we'll say 10% average over the years. So, I mean, it might be 19% one year and 7% the other year, and 22% one year and 12% the other year, but eventually it's going to all average out over the last 30 years to about 10%. So your money, I hate to say your money is safe. I don't want to give you financial advice here, but I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm leaving my money in there. My retirement fund is in a medium growth mutual fund. So, it's spread out over a whole bunch of different industries. And right now the whole stock market's down. It's not like, I had a big hit from the oil industry. My whole portfolio is in mutual funds. So it's taking the hit, all across the board. So hopefully, if trends are right, that will all actually come back up at the same level and hopefully get back to the point where it was before. I was looking at an interesting chart that talked about how stocks react after a major epidemic or a pandemic or a major sickness like this. And you can see generally there's a little blurb where the sickness is, and then that stock seems to rise back up, or that market seems to rise back up. The charts I was looking at yesterday, most of the stocks within 6 months had gone up 5 to 6%. And within 12 months, they had gone back up to the level or above. I think after SARS, the stock market went up 24%. So that's a pretty significant rise. So it kind of gives me a little bit of peace in knowing that my money is going to be, okay to stay in there. The other side of it for me, though, is I did have a little bit of liquid cash. So that money that I had set aside in savings is actually back in the stock market again. And it's kind of an up and down thing, but, as we come out the other side of this and oil prices start to return and the stock market starts to return, I'm going to be able to watch that money grow. And, I'm not sure if that's going to be a short-term investment, but, with a lot of stocks being down, like, I bought into a couple of stocks that I feel are really going to be profitable, and I bought them into them at like 30 to 35% of value. So, I'm hoping they dropped, close to 60 to 70% through this whole slowdown. So I'm hoping on the other side of it, when it comes out of it, that those stocks are going to get back to their original prices or their historical prices, and then I'm going to make a bit of money off of it. So, like I say, it depends on which side you look at, whether or not the stock market going down is a positive or negative thing. So other thing I want to talk about is savings. This is a huge example. Dave Ramsey's pretty famous for his program. For those who don't know who Dave Ramsey is, he's a radio personality. Real estate is where he made his money, and he has a couple books out there. One of his most famous books was Total Money Makeover, and that book talks about he lays out the steps. I think there's 7 steps to getting out of debt, and your first step is having an emergency fund, and that's only $1,000. And he wants you to have that in the bank before you start paying off debt. And that's just there in case your fridge goes out, or your car needs a repair, or your kid gets sick or something like that. Having that money in the bank for an emergency is going to give you the ability to stay on track with getting out of debt. Really good idea. I'm not going to go over the whole program with you, but I think it's after you get your debt paid off, pretty much everything but the house. I'd have to look into it, and maybe you guys can mention in the comments. After that point, you're supposed to save up 3 to 6 months of finances or expenses. So 3 to 6 months of expenses in the bank as your emergency fund, which is an incredible idea, because in this situation where a lot of people are either told not to come into work, or they're told to that their work hours are going to be reduced, or that their wages are going to be reduced, that's the time where this money really comes into play. Okay, if you have the money in the bank, your stress level is 80% lower. I'm just throwing out a number there. It's probably a lot more than that, but I'm just trying to throw out a number, and your stress level is going to be so much worse. They say that 80% of marriages in the U.S. end because of finances. This, you might think, it puts money, you might lose your car, you might lose your house, but you don't want to lose your wife. You married her to be your partner in life. So, having that emergency fund in the bank takes that stress away. Maybe not all the way away, but it sure does lessen it, knowing that you can survive. Also budgeting, living within our means. It's one of the things that I think that in a lot of ways that we're trained to do. We're trained to keep up to our neighbors. We're trained to keep up to our coworkers. Our coworkers buy a new truck, so we got to buy a new truck. Our neighbors, upgrade their house. Well, we're going to upgrade our house. Like those kind of things. Or else, they buy a house in a different neighborhood. All of a sudden, you start looking in a different neighborhood. It's kind of our mentality as a society to keep up with everyone else and keep up with appearances, when the truth is most of us can't afford it. So, being able to have a manageable budget. I just lost 30% of my wages, but I still was able to take money from the bank and put it into an investment that I wanted to do. I'm still going to make it through this onto the other side. And I'm still going to make it through in decent shape. I'm not going to be going on any trips. I'm not going to be buying anything extra. I'm going to be just paying my bills. That's it. 100%. Nothing else other than that. So, that would be my biggest advice to you. And for those of you that don't budget, this is a perfect time to get on board and start budgeting. Start thinking about where your money is going. That way you can figure out where you need to cut. So anyway, there's a lot of good resources out there. If you look on YouTube, get on Dave Ramsey's program. He's a great one to listen to. He's on, I don't know if he's on Sirius anymore, but he is on a lot of smaller radio stations. And I think his podcasts are available on Spotify and iTunes and a few other places, and I think you can actually stream it right from his website. So I will leave a link down in the description with a link to his website for those of you that are interested in looking at that. So I think that'll pretty much wrap up things for today. I don't want to beat this to death, but I just wanted to really talk about some of the key points in this, and some of the key points of what damage it's going to do to the economy and what we can do to mitigate it. The next video that we do will be a little bit more of a standard. Hopefully by that time, by next week, things will have cooled off a little bit and we'll be getting back to life as normal a little bit more. That's my hope. And we'll talk about a little bit more real life financial stuff and investing, and maybe, some debt calculations, things like that. So that'll do it for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to hit the like button, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much. See you next time.